as an industry, are we overselling what we do when we throw the tag of wellness?
If you put your marketing hat on, everybody wants, to put a label on something. In music, you have hard rock, you have metal, you have classic rock, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's the same thing with our industry. We want to put a label on something. And once we put a label on something, it makes it easier to market.
Ska defines who I am as a person, and I will never turn my back on ska. Ha! Looking back, I have no regrets.
You should.
On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk Turkish bathhouses, comms, breakdowns, and Samsung Plus HVAC. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 441, Going Upscale. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matthew Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Mr. Mark Feinberg. He's the president of Home Theater Advisors. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great, Matt. Trying to stay a little cool here in New York. It's not been the nicest, but we're enjoying it as much as we can.
A little hot and humid down there in the city?
Just a teeny bit. There's nice little bit of concrete that absorbs all the heat.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't reflect it at all. Then we've got our good friend and someone who just celebrated a birthday, Mr. Bob Archer. He's the senior editor over at CE Pro. How you doing, Bob?
Awesome, Matt. And you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's not as hot as it is near Mark, but it's pretty darn close.
Happy birthday, Bob.
Thank you, Mark.
Congratulations on your new belt you just got, too.
Thank you.
It's been a busy week for you. All right, gentlemen, let's kick this off with a story that comes to us from Residential Tech Today. The Premier Group helps Indiana homeowner maximize health and wellness. This Indiana couple had a large, what they're kind of calling a bit of a modern Turkish bathhouse built on the property. It's 2,500 square feet with a bunch of traditional tech that then grew into a lot more automation. That allows them to enjoy it as well as let their family and friends enjoy this kind of bathhouse, pool house, etc. Whenever they want. Go read through the article. It is a very interesting project, and Premier did a great job on it from everything that we can see. What I want to kind of start with on this, though, Mark, I'm going to be respectful of this. Don't take this the wrong way. And anybody who does, it is what it is. I kind of take issue with the health and wellness drive of this, right? I don't know if this was done by the marketing people, if it was done by Premier, if it was done by the homeowners. I'm reading through the story. I'm reading through the article. Is the bathhouse a place where you can work on your health and wellness because it's got a gym and it's got sauna and it's got a pool and all these other things? Yes. Does the technology support all that? Yes. But how is the tech really adding to the health and wellness of the clients in this case? Have we taken that health and wellness badge, Mark, and are we really starting to just apply it to every project we do that has any sort of control over comfort?
Yeah, I mean, first I want to say, Premier, it looks like they did a phenomenal job. It's a traditional AV, smart home, smart lighting, intercom communication system, but they really blew it out and did a great job with it. It's, from the gate entry to, being able to the lighting control and the lighting path to the bathhouse. That's what we do on a regular basis. They did it in a really elegant way. But to your point, it doesn't look like they touched the health and wellness things. They didn't, put in, I don't say anything about, air quality monitoring, air quality control, or, circadian lighting or anything like that. That I personally associate with health and wellness. To your point, yes, they enabled the use of the bathhouse to make it easier to use, more convenient to use, to get to for the owners and guests. I think that, yes, and I've seen this across a lot of the press in the industry, is sort of, if you touched the gym, if you put some speakers in the gym, now that was a health and wellness project. And I'm not sure I agree with that. That's why I don't say that my company does health and wellness because we do smart home and AV work, home technology within the gym of the home or within the pool of the home, but we're not doing the things, the actual gym equipment.
Yeah, it's a really defining line there, isn't it, Bob? And again, I am actively trying to not pick on anyone. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to have a general conversation about the industry and the health and wellness monikers.
I hope I didn't come off that I was picking on somebody. So I didn't mean to. Okay.
No,
Okay.
not at all. Not at all. They'll send trust me, they will send the hate mail to me. They'll forget you were even here.
Oh, good.
And please do. I love it. It makes me laugh. Bob, are we, as an industry, are we overselling what we do when we throw the tag of wellness or health benefits or whatever into lighting control or into some air quality? Because like that stuff is important. And I've been selling, to pick on my own company, we've been selling lighting control for 10, 15 years. To this day, I don't really consider lighting control to be a health and wellness thing. It's just something that makes your life better, which again could improve your health. But my legalistic brain cannot come to terms with pitching, a lighting control system or better quality light fixtures as a health and wellness product.
I think by definition, yes, we probably are overstating these terms a bit. But I think if you put your marketing hat on, everybody wants, to put a label on something. In music, you have hard rock, you have metal, you have classic rock, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's the same thing with our industry. We want to put a label on something. And once we put a label on something, it makes it easier to market. If you use Instagram or whatever platform, you're going to put the hashtags on it, and you're going to try to position it in a way to get the most views. So I think it's simply a mechanism for marketing.
All right. I like it. All right, gentlemen, let's change topics for a second. This comes to us from residentialsystems.com. Learning from a communication breakdown from a good friend of the show, Mr. Henry Clifford. Go read through the article. It's a good one, as always, from Henry. Long and short, Henry took his family to essentially the beach, to a beach house. And upon check-in with some teenagers, they discovered that the Wi-Fi was severely lacking in said beach house. Henry walked around, found a bunch of Ubiquiti APs, I believe, and realized that, the Wi-Fi we are all connected to is not the real APs. Long and short, he has a bunch of back and forths with the property management company and representatives who were not really helpful until all of a sudden he somehow stumbled upon the integrator that installed the system to determine that, well, they're still using the ISP Wi-Fi, even though everything else has been put in. Then that very kind integrator handed over some credentials, which Henry then forwarded on to the property management so that the next people that stay there could get access to that better Wi-Fi. I've experienced this myself where we have a place we go up north in the fall every year. And the last 2 years ago when we went, somebody had unintentionally, thank you, had a factory reset the fiber modem, which bricked the Wi-Fi on said fiber modem, and they couldn't get it fixed the entire week we were there because the owner, long and short, wasn't around, and they couldn't get anyone to authorize it to bring a tech in to actually fix it properly. And because I didn't have information, I couldn't fix it either. Bob, let me start with you on this. Do we have an onus as integrators to, or what is the onus as integrators to try and ensure that all of the proper stakeholders get access to the information and the logins, et cetera, the credentials or whatnot of the systems we install? do we have any onus, or if we hand it off to, again, the property manager or the homeowner or the homeowner's kid or whoever's signing that check, or who's managing that project, do we have any onus beyond that?
No, I think it begins and ends with the property owner. Once you hand them that information, it's up to them. Particularly, in this case, that was a very interesting article. I thought, because we've all been in that spot where we travel somewhere, exactly what you laid out, Matt, and we get somewhere and the Wi-Fi is lacking. You're getting booted off, or you're dropping, or whatever it may be. But it begins and ends there. If the property owner doesn't convey that information, you as a renter, you're SOL, I guess, for a lack of better words, and there's nothing more you can do. You can contact the property manager, but if they don't know the info, like in that case, in the article, there's not a whole lot you can do. It should be, particularly for the prices that some of these properties get, you would think that would be a standard part of the package, and moreover, you would think that they've made this investment. You would think that they would want their clientele to maximize it, and it should be part of their marketing with these properties, that you have a ubiquity system, or you have Ruckus in there, or whatever product line you have in there. In this case, since we're talking Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, Mark, the thing that stuck out to me in this article that kind of, I had a moment, was down towards the end of it. Henry's got in touch with the integrator somehow, and the integrator had a laugh at the fact that, again, nobody communicated that information to the right people, and went, here you go, let me just text over those credentials to you. How do we deal with, as integrators, how do we deal with not providing information to people who are not authorized to get it? Again, I'm very happy Henry got his Wi-Fi. If I was the owner of this company and found out one of my employees randomly texted a client's credentials for Wi-Fi to someone staying in the house, I don't care who it is, we would be having words because of the liability that opens the company up to.
I mean, it wasn't stated in the article. I would hope that what they sent over were the guest Wi-Fi credentials. And if it was the guest Wi-Fi credentials, I can understand that a little bit more. If it's just a guest network. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that's a little bit more understandable.
I disagree as well. It's not their place.
Okay. We would, I would not do that, but I could understand that a little bit more. I would get in touch with the property manager, homeowner, whatever, and say, hey, here are the credentials that you need to provide to the people in the home, or are you comfortable with me providing this to the people who are renting the home? Getting their approval first. I sort of get how this guy may have been like, listen, Henry's known in the industry. If this guy reads any of the press or anything, and you're like, oh, I know who Henry is. He's stand up. He's he's responsible. Like, I get who he is. Maybe they did it, just as a industry accommodation type of thing. But that's not the way it should be done. I think you would reach out to the homeowner or the property manager and say, you okay if I hand this out? But back to what you and Bob are talking about, we have had this situation. We have a wealthy client, an international client who has a pied-à-terre, whole floor, 5-bedroom pied-à-terre in Manhattan, that people are in and out of all the time. And we produced little Lucite, the little Lucite frames, put the guest Wi-Fi information in there with the QR code so that anyone coming into the home could just scan it and be on the Wi-Fi. We placed those in a few different strategic areas in the home so that, that wouldn't happen. And the reason we did that is because the first time someone was there who the property manager hadn't given the information to, we got complaints over the weekend of how bad the Wi-Fi was because they were connecting to the ISP Wi-Fi that they had called the ISP and said the Wi-Fi is terrible, and the ISP turned the Wi-Fi back on. But they said, we don't have Wi-Fi. So the ISP turned the Wi-Fi back on in the router that we had turned off. So, once we got them on the right Wi-Fi, they were all set. So yeah, I think it's, it's not incumbent upon us to put that information out there. I think it's a nice little add-on to provide that information to give to the property owners and the homeowner for them to distribute throughout the home and leave available for visitors. I, on the other hand, am a dork and travel with my own like legacy era system. If I'm driving somewhere, I stick it in the trunk and I'm like, all right,
Yes,
there's no
sir.
Wi-Fi. I'm set.
I might have a Netgear WAP that I travel with as well, sir. I'll wrap this up before we move to our last article of the day, with just a fun little story. We manage technology for a bunch of quick serves, and we are routinely getting emails or texts from managers of these various restaurants saying, hey, I got a new phone. I don't have Wi-Fi, blah, 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 blah. Can you send us the credentials to this? Can you send us credentials to the CCTV so we can check on something that happened, blah, 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 blah. And we literally have a form email now that anytime we get a request like that, my service manager takes that text, copies it back in, sends it back. And it's literally a, thank you for reaching out. We understand you're looking for this information. We need an email or a phone call or a text from, an insert name of owner, from the owner of this restaurant saying that you are allowed to, receive this information. If we get that, we can send that over to you. Otherwise, you ain't getting squat.
Right.
And literally, I don't care. We've put a policy in place where I don't care if we've worked with that company for 10 years and we've worked with that manager for 10 years. If they need something and they ask us for it because, the owner is always too busy to find it. If we don't get that email from the owner, that never gets sent out.
Right.
Because it even with the guest credentials, it's not your place, and it opens you up to liability anytime you send out any personal information of any client to anyone. And it's a really, really tough one, but that's what we do. So feel free to steal it or not, or tell me I'm wrong. I don't really care. All right. Let's hit our last story of the day. This comes to us from CE Pro. Samsung bolsters the SmartThings platform with Airzone integration. They're adding simplicity, control, and efficiency to Samsung SmartThings smart homes by adding by adding one of three ADO HVAC controllers that now work to add HVAC into that SmartThing platform. Mark, when you see this, I understand that SmartThings is not hugely prevalent in our channel. But when you see this, when you see the simplicity of what they're doing here, do you see this as just another thing that makes SmartThings feasible for, smaller projects or lower budget situations, more cost-effective installs?
I haven't even personally played with SmartThings. I know very, very little about it other than it's Samsung. That's probably about it. So I honestly don't have a huge opinion on this. I mean, what I like about this is that I've had some trouble integrating some Samsung more BNS type systems. I'm in Manhattan, so sometimes I run into in an apartment, they have really more involved central air systems than just, it's a lot of shared condensers, shared air handlers across multiple apartments. So how to control that and integrate it into a system for an owner. So I'm hopeful that this may lead to better solutions for that type of situation, since now SmartThings and Airzone will now be getting those calls from homeowners trying to figure that out. Maybe they will come up with better solutions across the industry for things we run into. So kind of that trickle up that we see a lot in our industry, where something gets, because it gets more widespread distribution, it gets solved better by the engineers because more people are complaining.
That's a great point. All right, Bob, wrap this up for us. Again, we were talking pre-show. I kind of love this because, one, as Mark said, there should be some trickle up. I know that they've already been working with Savant, Nest, and URC to add in these products into their platforms. I'm assuming that there will be more of the same, that we'll see this into Control 4, into RTI, into Crestron, et cetera. But I also love like the simplicity power that is SmartThings. We have quite a few clients that use it for auxiliary spaces and, secondary and tertiary homes. Do you see this as Samsung just, ticking another box, or do you see this as Samsung actually looking at their platform and going, all right, here's where we're limited, here's where we're lacking, and this is something we can do to plug that, that next hole that we don't have a solution for?
I think it's probably a little bit of both, right? They probably want to go upscale with their ecosystem, and the Airzone is a nice way to do that. And it also, like you had said, it checks more boxes for them about the platform being able to do more things too. So, they've been steadily growing the platform globally for several years now, and we may not hear about it as much here in North America, but this is probably a bigger deal abroad.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. All right, gentlemen, let's leave it there. Thank you both so much for joining us. Bob, if people want to connect with you, learn more about CE Pro, where can they do that?
They can go to cepro.com, or if they want to see what I'm up to, they can go to Instagram and BA1 Boston.
I have that in your title in case you forget every time.
I had to think about that for a second.
I love it. All right, Mark, thank you so much for joining us as well. If people want to connect with you, learn more about Home Theater Advisors, where can they do that?
The best is just hometheateradvisors.com, or as I said before, I'm an old man, so Facebook at Home Theater Advisors.
I love it. All right. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter/X and most other social platforms. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek,
the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.